Okay, the Liberal government's inching closer to releasing its long-promised, long-anticipated Indo-Pacific strategy. Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly was unequivocal today. The strategy will address China.
China is an increasingly disruptive global power. It seeks to shape the global environment into one that is more permissive for interests and values that increasingly depart from ours. What I would like to say to Canadians doing business in and with China, you need to be clear-eyed.
Minister Joly says the full strategy will be released within a month, and here to dig into her remarks today is Guy Saint-Jacques. You know him, of course. He's a former Canadian ambassador to China. So, Mr. Saint-Jacques, I know you've been waiting for this. The government's policy with regards to China, it's coming into focus with this speech today. I mean, what's your assessment of what you heard from Minister Joly?
Well, I'm very pleased with the speech that Mrs. Joly delivered today. I think it contains all the main elements of a comprehensive strategy. It deals with national security and defense. It deals with human rights, with political issues, with trade, with climate change and development. So I think all the elements are there, and it's a major turning point in our relationship with China. Of course, I expect that China will react very negatively, but in fact, we have no choice, and I'm glad that finally Ottawa has recognized that we are dealing with a very authoritarian regime, one that is running a very aggressive foreign policy, does not abide by its international commitments, and act as a bully when it has the chance.
She seemed to me to very clearly describe China as a threat, and not someone who can be a friend and an ally, but too big and too important to completely disregard and completely ignore, especially on big issues such as climate change, where all the countries kind of need to work together. But given all of that, your assessment, do you think Beijing will react negatively? What do you think we might hear from the Chinese regime?
Well, for sure, they will say this is another demonstration that Canada is the lapdog of the United States, but I think when Minister Joly says that we could work on global issues like climate change or health issues, we should remind the Chinese that we have been there to help them. We helped create the Ministry of Environment through the CEDA development assistance that was very successful. So there is a good basis there. We have had lots of exchanges, people to people, and I think we can build on that. But of course, they may not be receptive at the outset, but they have to understand that it takes two to tango.
She had a warning in her speech today for Canadians and Canadian companies doing business with China, that there are geopolitical risks linked to doing that sort of thing, and that seems significant coming from Minister Joly. What's your assessment of that warning?
Well, I think so, and I would make a link to what Minister Freeland said in Washington a few weeks ago about friendshoring, and in fact, it was repeated by Minister Champagne. I think that probably Minister Joly did not want to talk about decoupling in this because it implies lots of measures that need to be taken. But the message for Canadian business is quite clear. There are increasing risks in doing business with China, so you better look at your supply chain and try to diversify. And of course, it will remain an important market, but it's one that is becoming a lot more risky.
There was one other point you talked about there on the business front, unequivocal in the speech today, that Canada intends to deepen its economic ties with Taiwan. It's not something China will respond to positively. How do you expect them to react to that?
Well, I think, of course, they consider Taiwan as one of their red lines, and we have to expect a strong reaction. But at the same time, we have to remind them that this is consistent with our policy towards China. We have had economic exchanges and commercial exchanges with Taiwan for a long time. And I think for the government, if we are serious about promoting democracy and human rights, we have to show support for Taiwan. And a good way would be to finalize the Foreign Investment Protection Agreement, support Taiwan's candidacy to join the CPTPP, and maybe launch exploratory talks to look at the possibility of entering into formal negotiation on a free trade agreement.
Right, so the rhetoric today was more forceful, the language is more forceful. Speech is just a speech and rhetoric is just rhetoric, right? I mean, what do you need to see from the government before this plan really takes some solid form and is put into practice?
Well, the minister has promised that we'll have more details within a month. I think that we need to see more resources. And in fact, our partners in the Indo-Pacific region will be expecting the same. How much more resources are we ready to devote? The minister talked about an increased military presence, more attention devoted to Arctic sovereignty. I think the government should announce there, and I hope they will do that. We are going to invest a lot more in terms of acquiring naval ships and aircraft. In fact, we are not starting from zero. CETA has been very active in Asia. We had a very successful development assistance program. It's a matter now on building on this, but I think that will be the proof of the pudding. How much do we see in terms of new resources?
Okay, when we get the final plan, we'll probably have you back. I want to thank you very much, former Canadian Ambassador to China, Guy Saint-Jacques. Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.